So if you follow this channel, you know I like to use this Lee Kum-Ki chicken stock powder to make quick ramen. It's pretty good, but I've been seeing a lot of videos from some of my favorite ramen YouTubers where they use chicken breast to make chicken broth for ramen. So I decided to give it a shot this week and see if it's any good or not. So I got some chicken breast here and some chicken tenders from a chicken that I broke down. You could probably use pre-packed chicken breast, but breaking down your own chicken is way more cost effective and the chicken just tastes better. I also have some chicken skin here from breaking down the chicken, so I'm gonna use that to make some chiu later. So basically what you have to do is take these breasts and turn them into ground chicken. If you have a meat grinder, you can use that, but I don't have that, so I'm just gonna do this with a knife. It doesn't have to be a super fine mince. The general idea is just to increase the amount of surface area of the chicken that's in contact with the water to extract flavor. So yeah, just cut it up and try to mince it up as best as you can. I ended up with about 450 grams of ground chicken, so I got a pot and filled it with about a liter of water, about basically 2 times the chicken. Get the chicken into the water and then give it a mixy mix and then turn the heat on. I then added 15 grams of kombu into the pot and brought that up to a simmer, and then kept it at around 190 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit for about 45 minutes. You're going to want to periodically stir the bottom of the pot to make sure the chicken isn't burning down there. I forgot to mention this, but in terms of the type of chicken meat, you want to use chicken breast and not chicken thighs. I know chicken thighs taste really good, they have more fat in them, but according to everybody who's made this on videos, chicken breast is the best one to use to make chicken broth. As the chicken cooks, it will release some of this white scum. You don't need to skim it off like you normally do with normal scum that comes out of bones. This actually has a lot of umami and flavor in it, so just let it go and it will eventually settle back down. After 20 minutes, I removed the kombu from the soup and let it go for the remaining time. While the soup was cooking, I decided to do an experiment with a blended chicken fat oil. I cut the skin into smaller pieces so they would render out more quickly. And usually when I do a chiu, I do 100% chicken fat, but I didn't have that much skin, so I decided to use this method instead with a neutral oil. I got the pieces of skin into a small pan and then combined it with some vegetable oil and then rendered out the fat from the chicken skin over a low heat. And once most of the fat had rendered out of the chicken skin, I took out the chicken skin and then added in some green onions to infuse the oil with some green onion flavor. Usually when I make chiu, I add some garlic and ginger in there as well, but I just wanted to keep this simple so I could focus most of my attention on the soup itself. Anyways, cook this until these things are pretty much browned, and then remove it from the heat and strain it out into a container. And that is your, I don't know what you call this, blended chiu, or I'm sure someone can come up with a name for this. It's your aroma oil, basically. Back to the soup. In the last 5 minutes, I added some katsuobushi in just to try to balance out the glutamate from the kombu with some inosinic acid, and also to just give a little bit of a fishy flavor in there. And after steeping with the katsuobushi for 5 minutes, I strained out the soup into a separate pot. The color of the soup itself was pretty great, and I tasted it alone and it had a pretty good depth of flavor and depth of umami. But it had a pretty low brix, which is understandable because there's no bones in here, it's just chicken meat and some dashi components. And honestly, if you were to use Lee Kum-Ki chicken stock powder, you don't get any bricks with that either. So in terms of a relatively quick soup, this one is pretty interesting. So to put this one together, I wanted to see if this soup could handle a very simple tare, so I just did 20 mils of soy sauce and a drop of mirin for this. Super simple, and I also added about a tablespoon of the chicken fat aroma oil, and then 300 milliliters of soup. Forgot to mention that your noodles should probably be cooking while you're putting the things into the bowl, so do that. And then when they're done, strain them out really well. You don't want to transfer any extra water with the noodles into the soup to dilute it. And then just add them to the bowl and then give them a nice noodle fold to kind of put whatever toppings you want to put on them. Again, the primary idea for this bowl was to test this soup making method, so I'm just going to keep the toppings real simple with just some green onions. And that was my chicken breast broth ramen. There's not a really good name for that, but that's basically what it was. Anyways, this was a really clean tasting soup, and even with just soy sauce and mirin as a tare, it wasn't bad. Though, for me personally, I like a little bit more fish-forward shoyu ramen, so I'll probably add a lot more niboshi in it next time I make this. And I also thought it was pretty one-dimensional and could have used some more aromatics to add more depth of flavor. One of the big upsides with this soup compared to other things like the chicken stock powders is there was no MSG taste at all. Sometimes when you use those powders, you get that hint of MSG taste on the back of your tongue when you're drinking it. So there's absolutely none of that. But on the downside is I don't know if there was enough umami in it just by itself like this. So that probably needs to be fixed somehow. I know Ida-san in his videos soaks the kombu overnight, so that probably helps with the glutamate extraction, but also like using a real tare with more dashi components in it probably would fix that out just as well. I think a straight chicken fat chew would have been better for this as well. I think the vegetable oil kind of overpowered the chicken flavor I was going for. Either that or just use some lard. I think lard is actually easier and probably would have been better to add some pork flavor in there as well. I know I'm making this sound like this was just a completely terrible bowl, but it really wasn't. This was a test on the broth itself, and the broth itself was pretty good. So I think paired with a real tare, a better aroma oil, this could be a really solid weekday ramen. So if you want to make this, I would say give it a try. Test it out with your own shoyu or shiotare and some kind of other better aroma oil. Alright, that's it for this one. I'll link up all of the videos that I watched as inspiration for this video so you can check out their versions as well and try out those recipes. Those are some really great ramen YouTubers out there. A lot of them just speak Japanese, but I think you can just follow what they're doing and kind of, if you have any questions, you can just ask me on Instagram or wherever. You can check out the description below for all of those links. Thank you guys all so much for watching and for all the support, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.